Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. UFC 290 International Fight Week, 2 titles on the line. Doesn't really get much bigger than this. Maybe sometimes, but at this point of the year, this is the hottest thing since Las Vegas in the summertime, where it's 110 over here, folks. Listen, my name is Derick G. I am your host, and breaking it down with me, as always, is the Santa Fe Bomber himself, the New Mexico native, the leader on our head-to-head competition. AJ, brother, International Fight Week. How are the feels, man?
Woo, Derick, I'm getting some of that heat over here in Austin. I'm just glad it's not 110 anymore, brother. I am excited for International Fight Week. I agree. It's one of the biggest events in the year. The fighters agree. They bringing in people that's not even fighting. It's a fun time. I'm a little jealous you're down there in the fight capital of the world already, Derick. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good. We're heading on over to UFC X Saturday night for the fights, right? We're not going to see the fights because you go check tickets right now. And listen, man, you got to be run into a small fortune to be able to afford those tickets. But we'll be there, UFC X. Hopefully I could bring a little content to the show. We will see. But that's neither here nor there, folks. You're not here for that. What you're here for is fight picks. This is your favorite fighter's favorite fight show for a reason. And I think it's amply named because at the end of the day, we're bringing picks, we're bringing accuracy ratings, and we're bringing accountability. Now, AJ, we're over 7 months into the year 2023. People are like, obviously it's July, I get it, but that means that we're slowly winding down on this tournament. It is close, a 6-point lead that you have on the board right now. Just give me some feelings before we jump into the breakdowns.
Derick, you said in the intro, in the leader of the thing right now, but I still feel like I'm down, brother. I'm still foot on the gas, and it's getting to that point of the year where I'm feeling like a comeback could be there, brother. So I'm still fighting, still grinding them out, still loving this. And this is a fun card for this kind of thing to go down. Sure, a lot of people are going with the favorites, but it's still possibilities are in the air because upsets can happen with these kind of fights. You never know. Man, do you feel like you've been down too much? Or you kind of coming back a little right now, brother? You smelling my tail a little, how they would say?
Listen, bro, I'm looking for a repeat of last year. I was down last year. I came back at the end. If history repeats itself, I'm looking for it. But I'm going to be completely honest with you on this one, bro. It's tough. Every single fight carries extra weight, extra implications. Listen, Leon Edwards knocked out Kamaru Usman with 1 minute left in their fight, and everybody forgot about the trajectory of the fight. They just know Leon is the champ, and that is what matters right there. So foot is on the gas for the real supporters of this program, and you've been following along, you know it's getting heated. But like I said, we're not here for the formalities, we're here for the fights. So AJ, without any further ado, let's bring up the money line sheet, my man. So folks, I'm going to bring this up, and I'm actually going to hold it up just a touch longer than I normally do. As you can see here, UFC 290, AJ mentioned it. A lot of favorites, and Bloody Water Podcast consensus picks are as follows. We like Alexander the Great Volkanovski, Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker, the Tarantula, Jalen Turner, and then, of course, Bo Nickal, who opened up, we'll talk about it, but opened up as like a minus 2,800 favorite against the short notice opponent, Val Woodburn. 1 point of contention here, AJ, is the only one that we need to chat about just for a sentence or two, and then we'll keep it pushing. Assassin Baby and Alexandre Pantoja, the Cannibal. You got a man in the challenger, Pantoja, 2 wins already over Brandon Moreno. Why do you like Pantoja on this one?
Derick, I said it just a little bit ago. Sometimes when there's fight weeks or big events like that, magic is in the air, and Pantoja, in my book, is the one that could possibly get this done. Like you said, 2 wins already. Who knows? Sometimes they say the best time's the third time. I just stumbled that frame. But folks, you know what I'm talking about, man. Third time's the magic. We'll see if Moreno can get it done. But this is the fight that I think could be the closest of the night that we'll see one of the underdogs take it.
That's right. And when titles are on the line, it's hard to go for the upset. But when you hit big, baby. And I'm going Assassin Baby because, listen, the last time that Pantoja fought Assassin Baby, he looked like a completely different fighter. One of the guys that Pantoja has lost to recently of the 2 is Davison Figueiredo. Well, Moreno fought that guy 4 times and beat him twice out of the 4 times. Does MMA math work? I don't know. We'll talk about it. But folks, this is your opportunity right now. If you're not subscribed to the program, you should absolutely subscribe. We just hit 600 subscribers not too long ago, just a couple days ago. So folks, thank you, big thank you to the fam out there, the BWP fam. But I will say this, 600 ain't the goal. AJ, if I remember correctly, what was the goal? It was about 1,000, right?
1,000 plus, Derek. That's where we're looking. And I still think, I know they might say pipe dreams, but I still think it's feasible, especially with you fine folk right there, sharing it to your friends, pushing it along. Like we say all the time, if you're making money, that's when you come hit the subscribe button. You like the content, that's when you come over here. Don't trust the words in the beginning of the show. Wait till the end, and then you'll see the real gold that's meant to be had.
Just like MMA, anything can happen. 500 subscribers, that doesn't sound too lofty to me. Or 400, I guess. My math ain't too good. All right, folks, let's talk about some title fights, baby. Let's get it.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Alexander Volkanovski, what, 7th title fight in a row? And he faces what some are calling his biggest test to date. Now, AJ, I don't know if this is his biggest test. I don't know if Yair Rodriguez would be the toughest test that he has faced, but I do think it's going to be one of the most unexpected matchups in terms of you don't know what is going to happen with the Yair Rodriguez fight. Half the times, Yair probably doesn't even know. It's calculated, but it's unpredictable. He might throw something in that flow state that we get in, and anybody can get caught. Now, we have to be realistic here. Alexander Volkanovski, I think, has earned our respect enough to the point where minus 420 favorite at open, respectable, right?
Oh, very respectable. I mean, especially with this man's hit list alone, Derek, it's hard to not give him that kind of credit.
I would agree 100%, but at the same time, you do go into this matchup, at least if you're me, a little fearful, right? I do think Yair Rodriguez has the capacity to upset, especially coming off of a steamrolling victory against Josh Emmett the way that he did. But here's the thing, man. Volkanovski has this uncanny knack to not only beat you where you're best at, which I'm not sure that's the best idea against Rodriguez, but he can neutralize your game plan given he is so well-rounded. He is almost, and might be not the most apt comparison given how their careers have lined up, but he's like the Robert Whittaker of the featherweight division, kind of. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, luck has favored him a little bit more in the fights he's been in as far as Bobby Knuckles, but I would agree. Alexander Volkanovski is the better fighter, more well-rounded fighter, but we say it all the time, Derek, the better fighter does not always win on fight night, and I think the X factor that Yair Rodriguez has that you're talking about where he doesn't even really know what he's going to do. He's drilled it. He's drilled the upward elbows. He's drilled the double spinning kicks, all that stuff. If the game plan of Alexander Volkanovski happens, he's going to win. But that X factor can come at any point, and that is the danger right here. And that's what I think you're tapping into as well.
Mm-hmm. You know, there's something that I was just thinking about right now, and it's like obvious when you're like going through your fight prep, but is it not a little weird that there's a lot of this hype on your Yair Rodriguez right now? Deservedly so. Dude is a stud. He's a fantastic fighter. But is it not a little odd that you lose to Max Holloway, you get a win over Brian Ortega where he gets injured and the fight's done, and then you steamroll Josh Emmett, and all of a sudden you're the number one guy. You're the guy that everyone's clamoring about. Do you find anything strange in that, or do you think all of this hype truly is deserved?
So I think that's a little bit of two different questions because, yes, I think the hype is deserved. Rodriguez is very what's the word I'm looking for? Like explosive. He has the it factor that would draw a crowd. He has the Mexican fandom pushing him as well. So there's a big draw for him. So I do think the credit is deserved, Derek. But as far as the storyline, you can never trust the storyline with the UFC. I didn't want to bring it up yet because there's other ones that are coming through with storyline as well. And it seems to be this is when the mecca of all of that hits or subsides, at least, because it is an interesting way the cards unfolded for Yair Rodriguez having that L to Max Holloway. Yep. But again, 4th fight, 5th fight, are we going to keep seeing these keep going on in the UFC? I don't know.
Well, I guess my whole point of why I bring this up in the first place is simply because, as you had mentioned, the UFC needs to build a story to build a fight, right? And if you're Yair Rodriguez, you're all of a sudden the big boogeyman, the biggest test to Alexander Volkanovski, when in reality, it's probably a little closer to, oh man, don't you think Du Plessis could beat Adesanya? It's like he's the only guy left. It's like Volkanovski beat everybody else. So obviously you make the new guy the biggest, baddest guy. Not to take anything away from Yair Rodriguez, I just think Volkanovski has dominated his division in Amanda Nunes fashion, Shevchenko fashion, Usman fashion after so long, that type of stuff. So we could touch more on that a little bit, but let's just dive into the X's and O's, man. Realistically, Yair Rodriguez is dangerous on the feet. He's dangerous standing up. But Alexander Volkanovski, especially coming off of that fight against Islam Makhachev, I think it's pretty clear that it's going to be tough to submit Volkanovski or to beat him up on the feet or something like that without him changing levels or without him taking the fight in an approach where it's not advantageous for Rodriguez. Will he be successful in that pursuit here, or is Yair going to be too unpredictable?
No, I think Alexander Volkanovski's going to stick to the game plan. And we saw it, like you said, in all those fights, we've seen him do it. This guy is good at managing range. He knows how to not get tagged at range and then when to enter on the takedowns. Does it to perfection. That's why it's hard to discount him at that minus 420 favorite, because this dude is very well-rounded and very smart. So it's an upward battle for Yair. But what Yair does have is the kicks. Yeah. You know, you want to shut down somebody who's coming at you, put a teep kick right up the middle, right up their face, let them know that's going to be there all night long. Volkanovski is a little shorter. What's the height? 5'6" to 5'11". So, you know, you have some of that. Maybe get him in tie clinch. Yair working the knees up the middle, the uppercuts. The thing is, though, we've seen Yair throw uppercuts. I mean, we've seen him throw an upward elbow, but I wouldn't say he's much of a practitioner throwing things up the middle like that. Would you, Derek?
I know. I don't think he's a pure boxer. You know what I mean? I think that his best weapons are the kicks and the weird angles that they come from. So that's what I was going to say. Reach-wise, I mean, if you look on numbers, Volkanovski has a half-an-inch reach advantage, but Yair Rodriguez's reach comes in those legs. So, you know, it's not PFL. They don't do leg reach in the UFC. I just think that that's where the battle is going to be interesting. Volk does a really good job of pulling opponents into his strikes, using his footwork to dictate where the fight takes place. Yair, on the other hand, is really good at hitting you where you cannot hit him back. So Volkanovski, though, he's not applauding Josh Emmett where he's just going to throw the big right hand or throw the big bomb or whatnot. Volk is going to touch you, kick the legs up, try to beat up the legs, take away that mobility, and then might wrestle with you just to say, like icing on the cake right here. We could talk X's and O's all day in regards to this matchup, but we have to take a couple other intangibles into account as well. It looks like, I don't know, man. It looks like a very steep battle for Yair Rodriguez to overcome right here. But I don't know if I feel comfortable with the Alexander Volkanovski finish, given that he's been heavily decision wins in his title run. I think he needs to build a statement. But if you also take into account Volkanovski's talking about after this fight, I'm moving back up to 155 to fight Makhachev for the rematch, you might think he wants to get out of this one as unscathed as possible. I think I like Alexander Volkanovski with the decision right here. He's creeping real close to beating that Shevchenko title defense record right there, bro. So give me Volk. Give me a decision, baby. How are you seeing it?
I like that, Derek, especially because if you're looking to finish Yair Rodriguez, that's when you put yourself in danger. And I don't see Volk putting himself in that danger unless absolutely necessary. So I'm with you. Decision, Volkanovski. Give me that 125.
And this isn't going to be the end of a Yair Rodriguez, but I will say that this is going to be another reminder and another litmus test to, hey, there's like Volk, there's Holloway, and then there's everybody else. And we need to fall in line a little bit, but who knows? We'll see. All right, that is title fight number 1 right there, folks, for the featherweight championship. And we go straight from one title fight to the next one right here. The assassin baby, Brandon Moreno, has solidified himself as the king of the flyweight division. He has thrown out Davison Figueiredo. He said, you got to go move weight classes, bro. But Pantoja has been the guy who's been kind of creeping behind the curtains for a while. Who's just like, when am I going to get my shot, bro? Like, I beat all of these guys. And the way he does it, would you admit, AJ, like it's violent. It's very, very violent. Like, how would you describe Alexandre Pantoja's fight style?
Violent is probably the best word, but like a calculated violence, Derek. Pantoja has that kind of a slow burn, I mean, to his career as well, but also this guy knows when to put on the gas, when to really pump it in, when to go for the things that are really going to hurt you. And even if that is a spark from the jump and this guy's all action, it's because he knows he can take it at that point. So whenever he sees his time, this guy goes in for the kill, man. Pantoja is a very dangerous fighter. And that's why I like this fight so much, because Brandon Moreno has evolved so much more as a fighter as well. I mean, through all the battles with Figgy, through all the ups and downs he's had, this guy, Moreno, has really grown to become a different style. We even saw him in his last fight not do the elbows in, arms out. He evolved from that mid-fight camp, bro. This is a different fight we have on our hands. Sure, Pantoja might have got a couple on him before, but this one's going back in, man. New ring when you step in again.
And let's recount history, right? Pantoja has a win in the Tough House, and then he has a win in the UFC that led to Brandon Moreno being cut from the UFC, where he had to go back to the regional scene, work his way back, and look at where we are now. One thing that I will note, though, is that for Alexandre Pantoja, there's some additional confidence that comes in knowing that you've defeated this man twice and that you're simply the better fighter. And some people at the end of the day, I mean, they have other people's number. What were we saying about Pereira and Adesanya? And honestly, in that moment, Adesanya did just enough homework to be able to capitalize on a mistake that he saw from trends, right? But the way that fight was going, it was looking like he just got his number. It is what it is. I would say this is going to be a little bit different because if you watch on tape, as you just mentioned, they're two completely different fighters. The scary thing about Pantoja, bro, is that he comes in with a willingness to eat shots and give it back to you, but to close distance with strikes so then he could take your back and choke you. And he doesn't just do that in just like his last fight. Like, he does this to everybody. If you look at the Moreno fight, the last one, he did the same thing. And it felt like every shot that he throws has an oomph on it. It has just a crispness to it that just bludgeons his opponents. So when it comes down to a pure power imbalance here, will his power be enough to keep up with the just nonstop pace of a Brandon Moreno? What do you think?
That's interesting because I thought in the last fight, Moreno's footwork, his sporadicness in his footwork, that kind of feathery way he likes to fight where he's a little light, you can't really touch him because he's everywhere, died down a little bit, and he started to get a little more power on his shots. So I think if he takes that approach, that might be a bad thing because you're right. Pantoja punches through the target all the time, and he really aims to hurt you. That's why I'm so twisted on this fight, Derick, because there's so many intangibles that we've seen people grow and like almost stay the same at the same point, where it makes it. I mean, the odds. This is the closest we're going to see. This, you could call this a coin toss with how how much unknowns there's going to be in the rematch, the mental games, things that are going to go. Obviously, it's a minus 200, but it's still very, very close.
The thing that really concerns me in this matchup, though, in regards to how close it can be, is that if you look at Pantoja and you just look at like his last like 10 fights, right? You got a couple of decisions, yeah. But he's willing to burn it all in that first and second round to chase the finish. And I just think if he tries that, this is 5 rounds, baby. You know, Assassin, baby, he only has gone 5 rounds twice in his last 10, right? But that's neither here nor there. Like, he, I think, does a little bit better, especially if he loses the first couple of rounds. Like, that pace will kind of build. Didn't really happen against Kai Kara-France. It felt like Kara-France was the one building instead of Moreno. But with this style, if he can survive the grappling exchanges between him and Pantoja, I think that if this fight goes over 3 rounds, Pantoja is going to get real fatigued. Power's still going to be there. If he clips Moreno, he could still get him out of there. But I just think that's the edge that we're going to need for Moreno to get the win here. So let me ask you this, man. Do we see a Pantoja with the confidence of, I'm going to go out and steamroll, or does he realize this is his moment? Do we see a little unconventional Pantoja just because this is finally your opportunity for the gold and he's trying to prove to everybody, I'm that guy? What do you think?
I think we're going to see a cool, calculated round 1, and then the fire is going to hit, Derick. As much as he's going to want to reserve the tanks, I don't think maybe even at most he makes it to minute 8. You know, that round and a half area. Yeah. Because, man, we've said it before, man, when the adrenaline is going, it just revert back to where and Pal Pantoja knows his kill. So I think that's where we're going to see it. I was agreeing with you. If this fight goes a little longer, this fight goes a distance, Pantoja's odds start to slim down. But this guy, there's a reason he has a lot of finishes on his record, and it's probably one of the best odds you're going to get for against a champion for a finish we've seen in a while too.
This is a tough one because I would love to say Brandon Moreno finish, right? I would love to say something like that. But I just don't think that the way that the dice is going to shake out in this one, this is flyweights. These are 125-pounders. It's hard to have those finishes like that unless you're a powerhouse of the division. So if a finish comes, I do think it comes on the Pantoja side, honestly. I'm not even going to be surprised. You see that plus 275 submission prop. It's there for a reason. I think that's a real threat. I'm going to roll with the Assassin, baby, and still across the board, give me a decision right here. How are you seeing it?
I'm actually taking that plus 275 money right there, Derick. I'm taking the submission, and I think it's going to happen in the late second round. I'm going out Alejandro Pantoja. Ooh, it's going to be a fun night, man. This one's going to be a very, very close and exciting fight.
That's right. And I'll say Pantoja, he's taken Moreno's back before. He's gotten those submission attempts in before. It's a scary prospect. You're right. Closest one on the books right there. And with that being said, we divert to a matchup where it's hard to imagine this guy in any spot that's not a main or co-main. But Bobby Knuckles relegated to the third bout of the night against Dricus du Plessis. So, AJ, we talked storylines. We were just talking narrative, and we were talking about how middleweight needs to build up these new boogeymen. Whittaker, for whatever reason, he's not considered a boogeyman because he's lost to the champ a couple times, right? But we know, no Adesanya, Whittaker is your guy. He is your champion. Du Plessis is a very interesting case of a man who everyone keeps saying shouldn't win, but just keeps winning. And this is the biggest test to date. Does it concern you at all that Robert Whittaker, and not concern you maybe in a bad way, but like Robert Whittaker seems to be taking this as a very serious challenge? He seems to not underestimate Du Plessis at all. And I'm just like, well, if you look at the trajectory of Robert Whittaker and you look at how he's dismantled, let's take a look. Marvin Vettori, Kelvin Gastelum, Jared Cannonier, Darren Till, Yoel Romero twice, Jacare. When you finish Jacare, who does that? Like when you see his level of seriousness and you apply that against the new contender, Dricus Du Plessis, does that concern you at all?
It doesn't really concern me, Derek. I mean, Robert Whittaker taking this fight seriously. I think he knows what you just said, and the fact that if it wasn't for Israel Adesanya, Bobby Knuckles would still be reigning supreme. So him being dialed in, him feeling like he has a lot to lose, I guess it could add a little extra pressure to the old mental, mind state of Robert Whittaker. But it tells me he's dialed in. This guy knows. I mean, the question really, though, is what is Robert Whittaker fighting for to really keep that draw? Or is this all a sham? Is this all just, business as usual? Mm-hmm. And he's saying these things to really light that fire? I don't know. That's what we're going to see. But, I mean, the X factor Dricus Du Plessis he has all the momentum on his side. Mm-hmm. Besides that, Derek, what do you really see Dricus Du Plessis bring into this fight besides, a good wrestling and some power shots?
I'll tell you, there is one intangible that I have noticed from Du Plessis, and you might not, it's an intangible. You might not be able to measure it, right? He has a relentlessness and a will to win that you don't really see too often, man. Even though he's huffing and puffing, he's like, my nose doesn't work. I'm not that tired. I am tired, but I'm not like deathly gassed. My nose doesn't work, so it's hard. But you'll see little moments in fights. Darren Till fight, for an example, once he starts getting pieced up, and he just does, I call it just enough to secure the takedown when he shouldn't have gotten it. When he was fighting Derek Brunson, right? You're over here, you're getting your head snapped back, you're getting controlled in that first round, and you have a relentlessness that's going to be able to sway the fight. You hit him with one little clean hook or whatnot right in the last 3 seconds before the bell, and that relentlessness comes out. He has a knack for winning fights, and that's sometimes all you need. The question turns into, is that enough to beat a Robert Whittaker? And like 9.5, maybe 9.98 out of 10 times? Like, no, that's not enough to beat Robert Whittaker. How does this fight differ between Marvin Vettori's fight against Robert Whittaker? How is this much of a different matchup?
Storyline. That's how, Derek. The champ wants Dricus Du Plessis to come and show him something so he can get that whooping too. And Robert Whittaker, I think, is going to put up on show. I mean, how technically X's and O's, how it's different. I think Dricus Du Plessis is a little faster, a little smoother in the combo. He's not as bricky. He's not as blocky. So he's going to have these moments where he is going to be fluid. But again, Bobby Knuckles, and I agree with you. Dricus Du Plessis, he has that dog in him to bite down on the mouthpiece and say, come get some. But against Bobby Knuckles, you're going to eat a right hand and then a head kick, and you're going to be seeing some stars, man. We know the danger that Robert Whittaker presents.
I'm just going to say this, man. If there's one thing that I don't know why I'm extra worried in this fight, but I'm really worried about a Dricus Du Plessis left head kick. I'm really worried about that. I don't know why. Robert Whittaker has this knack, depending on who he's fighting, right? He has this knack to dip off to the right. Dip off. And they'll call it in the fight, and they're like, he needs to be careful about that. And he stays out the way. He moves just enough. I'm just a little worried about that head kick. Aside from that, I think Whittaker should be better in all areas. I think he's deserving of the minus 380 favorite right here. But let's answer that question that we posed earlier. Let's actually talk about it real quick. What exactly is Bobby Knuckles fighting for?
Ooh, Derek. Man, I'm glad. I wish you would have taken it, because that's why I proposed it earlier. Because nothing really. He doesn't have much to win from this fight. He has a lot to lose, though. And I think right now he's kind of fighting for that, just what some would call hometown pride. Some big dude shows up in your town, and you're like, oh, I'm messing this cat up. Like, he ain't taking what's mine. You don't have anything behind you. You don't have any, nothing really going for it besides just you're down to scrap. This guy's here, and paycheck's getting a little light. So, you know what? Let's put it together. Do you see anything else?
I think he is fighting for something here, man. And I know it's not to the real alphas out there. I know they're going to be like, this is goofy. Who would fight for that? But I think he's fighting for number 2. And I think number 2 is a lot better than number 5. And it's a lot better than number 10. It's a lot better than unranked. I'll tell you that much. So you have to fight for something. And if you're going to be that number 2 guy, listen, man, that's top 2 in the world. I would argue it's 1A and 1B. Now that Paeta's out of the scenario, it's Adesanya and Whittaker. That's it right there, man. You guys are part of that one right there. But aside from that, I can see how it can be a little difficult to find motivation for this matchup. We just hope that that doesn't come to bite us in terms of like wagering and you know what I mean, betting on a fight. But with that being said, I don't know, man. Is it disrespectful to think that Whittaker could really get that plus 135 TKO? Is that disrespect to Derick du Plessis, given that Robert Whittaker has not finished a fight, man, since 2019?
He has not finished a fight since 2019. Call me crazy, though, Derick. I feel like with the heat Derick du Plessis is bringing on, with the new nose job, he's breathing better. He's going to come and try to put on a show. And what did I say before in the fight earlier? When you're going for the knockout, you're not going to win a decision, but when you're going for the knockouts, that's when you leave yourself open and you have a sniper like Robert Whittaker can be with a lot of power behind his punches. You see lights out. I was gonna go TKO. So I don't think it's that. I hope it's not that disrespectful. And hopefully it doesn't light a fire under Derick du Plessis when people are choosing that. But I'm thinking TKO for me personally, Derick. And I'm going round 2.
Okay, that's fair. TKO round 2. I don't know why I'm so conflicted about this, and sometimes that's why I try not to look at the odds before I talk about this. But when you look at the odds, it sways you in a couple different directions. You have to be honest. Mm-hmm. I might sound like a crazy guy right here. I know I'm going to take a risk. I don't care. I'm going to go Robert Whittaker. Give me a submission. Give me a submission win by Bobby Knuckles, bro. People think that Whittaker can't wrestle. And I can see Derick du Plessis trying to pull out the trump card and be like, oh, I'm going to wrestle with you, bro. Mm-hmm. You fall into the wrong spot, get your back taken, get choked out, arm triangled, whatever. Give me a Whittaker submission, man. I'm feeling frisky here. You know what I'm saying? Am I crazy, AJ?
I like it, Derick. I like it. I'm telling you, man, when there's stuff like this, when they're bringing all the stars together, there's magic in the air. It's going to strike at some point.
And then it comes back as a decision, and I look dumb. But all right, that's fine. That's fine. All right, bro, let's move on to the next matchup right here. A banger in the lightweight division. The Tarantula, Jalen Turner, lost a touch of steam after his loss against a split decision loss against Mateus Gamrot. But listen, Dan Hooker, the hangman, he finally gets a fight, or at least he thought, where he doesn't have to fight a dude who's either going to try to wrestle him or try to do something crazy, you know. But Jalen Turner, man, he's not the guy that I think that you really want to be testing your Western gun practitioner skills against. You know what I mean? Turner brings it. Hooker brings it. What's stopping Jalen Turner from turning this into a jiu-jitsu match? You know what I mean? And not just straight out going into a war.
Ooh, man, maybe the distance management that Dan Hooker used to have, sometimes still does have. He has the ways to move his feet, deep kicks, and control people at range. Have we seen him use it? Have we seen his opponents enter in smoothly under his hits and come over the top? We've seen multiple ways which opponents have been able to overwork or outmaneuver his abilities in that range management. And it's going to be a hard one too against a dude with basically the exact same reach, but 3 inches in height and probably like 4 to 5 inches in the legs. Jalen Turner, this is a hell of a mountain. Hopefully, you never know. We said it before, or we've seen it happen before, Derick. We never called it when it happened, but Blonde Brunson came out and changed the world. Will Blonde Hooker?
I mean, listen, it's a tall task in front of him, figuratively and literally. But I think the real key here is let's look at just like the context behind this. Dan Hooker, like he said it, he was like, listen, the COVID days, they didn't treat the Hangman very well, but that's okay. Lost to Makhachev on, I think that was a short notice fight maybe. Lost to Arnold Allen, and that was your move down to 145. The other losses that he had were what? Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier. You're not losing to bad guys. You're losing to the best guys, honestly, right? I think what it comes down to, though, is that it seemed like Hooker was kind of looking for a size advantage in this division where he already had a size advantage, and he got tuned up by the 145er that he had the size advantage on. Now you're fighting the guy that has the size advantage on you. So you're the little guy again. How are you going to fare well with that? How are your knees and your elbows going to work when this is the bigger guy? I think that's the thing you got to watch out for. The knees of Jalen Turner, the long punches, the teep kicks. It's convenient to say this is like a clone matchup, but in reality, it's not at all, is it?
No, not at all, Derick. In fact, it's not at all a clone matchup because when I saw this, I was a little upset for the Dan Hooker corner. I'm like, damn, they're giving him to Jalen Turner? Like, damn, that's not it's so close of a clone setup that you could be like, damn, this is a close fight. But because Turner has all the same tangibles, he has all the same good punches, great wrestling, good jiu-jitsu, it's just a little bit more like explosive and still has that kind of momentum. He hasn't had the big L's. Yeah, he has 6 losses, but he hasn't had the big L's to demoralize him yet. Where I think Dan Hooker, we saw him break. We saw him go to a new division. We saw the mentality play an aspect in that form. Will it come out again when this dude's you're like you said, you're the small guy again, bro. You're trying to knuckle up to the big dude and he's just not going down. It's hard. This is a big and a hard fight for Dan Hooker.
I think it's interesting, too, because they were actually slated to fight in March, and that fight got canceled. Now, why did it get canceled? It looks like, Hooker broke his hand, right? So they canceled that fight. You get that fight back 4 months later. So let's talk about that, and then let's move him out of here, man. You broke your hand not that long ago. I mean, dog, it's July. That was in March. Like, should we be concerned?
There was some heavyweights that broke their hand. Was it Ngannou Gone?
I think it was Gone. It was Gone that broke his hand, yeah.
I mean, I guess it all depends on which part of the hand did he break, the palm, metatarsals, fingers, something in there, knuckle, was boxer's fracture. Like there's many X's and Y's how that could have actually happened. So it's hard to say, but if Gone is any real testament, didn't suffer at all for him. But that's, that could be apples to oranges because Gone's a savage too.
That's right. I think, listen, man, this matchup, Jalen Turner, he's just a little more well-rounded. It depends on what type of game plan that he's going to bring to the table. But it's going to be difficult to not see this fight end in a finish. I like Jalen Turner. And believe it or not, man, I'm going to go sub-happy again. Give me a submission right here, bro. I think he breaks it out against Dan Turner. What do you think?
It's not crazy, Derek. It's not crazy at all. With the relentlessness that Dan Hooker presents, you could be going for a takedown. You could just be pressing in. You get a guillotine. You slip back. However, you're the jiu-jitsu specialist, so that's an apt call, and I'm glad I'm going TKO, man. I'm glad you left that one for me. I'm going the TKO plus 175. Give me Jalen Turner, and unfortunately, I like Dan Hooker, man, but late round one, I think this just is not a good fight.
Yeah, and I'll say if I'm going to put on like my Mystic Mac hat again, I'm thinking standing guillotine or a Darce. I'm thinking that's what gets the job done for Jalen Turner. Anaconda, Darce variation, whatever. All right, Jalen Turner, across the board, baby. And then to open us up, man, Bo Nickal, this guy can't catch a break, right? He has finally the big opportunity against Tresean Gore, fight a guy who's got a little steam on his name. Shout out Tresean. And then Tresean Gore gets hurt. Val Woodburn steps in, and now you're being praised as minus 2,800 favorite, largest favorite in UFC history. But AJ, this is not. I think this is like a curse in disguise. I think this is like the worst thing that could have happened, because even though Bo Nickal has the supreme confidence and says, "Yeah, math checks out. Those odds are about right. I think that looks good." You have to not just win, you must win in devastating fashion. You must finish your opponent, no ifs, ands, or buts. Now, Val Woodburn, what do we got to lose, baby? We here. I'm ready to knock out and play spoiler. You know what I'm saying? 7-0, undefeated. You're fighting the rookie with 4-0, Listen, bro, Val Woodburn, if you're Val Woodburn, AJ, what approach do you take to this matchup knowing that worst case scenario, you're probably still in the UFC after this?
I say blitz, Derek. Use the muscles that you've been working for and just blitz this man and try to get in a bit dominant position against the wrestler. Val Woodburn does have some really good wrestling. He's strong. He's able to control people. But, I mean, we've seen what Bo Nickal can do in the wrestling. So it's hard to say take advantage of that. But if you can come in with some big hooks over the top, some big power uppercuts, this guy, Val Woodburn, threw a knee so heavy in one of his fights that it literally lifted him off the ground and fell back on it, like literally fell on his back. So he has the power. He has explosiveness. I'd akin him to a Buckley, Numensa, if you his nickname. Couldn't remember the name first. Joaquin Buckley. Sorry about that, Buckley. But he has that kind of explosiveness and athleticism in his fight game. Will that suffice? Well, I don't think so. That's why I'm saying blitz, because you got a lot of muscles and not that much gas tank. What do you think? Do you see another viable option, Derek?
You have to catch him when he's going in for the shot. The problem is Bo Nickal's shots are so seamless in the transitions. It's going to be the tallest task for him to do. Not only that, you're the smaller man. 5'8" is Val Woodburn with the 6'1" Bo Nickal, who cannot just – and here's the thing, man. People think Bo Nickal, for whatever reason, can just wrestle. Like, he's got knockouts, right? He can strike a little bit. I think the easiest path to victory is to wrestle. but I also think that it shouldn't be immediate old school, right? Alexander Romanov style where bell rings, take down immediately. I think you got to play the game a little bit against a Val Woodburn, or you will be getting caught with a knee and uppercut, anything like that. Here's my one concern, though, man. Yes, does Val Woodburn have some good grappling? Yeah. Bo Nickal is a different level, of course, right? But I did see, it was just like 2 fights ago, man. It was 2 fights ago. Val Woodburn was getting, it was a bigger man. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now, but he was getting controlled up against the cage for quite some time in that fight. He ended up winning. It was a decision. Some argue it was the toughest test of his career. It was against a bigger, larger, taller guy. And I think Bo Nickal, with the strength that he has, bro, if he's not trying to do something too crazy, I think he handedly just wins this fight, man. I see it a first round finish. The question is, how does the finish happen? What do you think?
Yeah, I see it a first round finish as well, Derek. But that's the weird part the part I like most about this fight with Val Woodburn. If you're going to be trying to get an early finish on him, when Val Woodburn is at his most dangerous.
That's right.
Like this guy, man, he can catch you with a pinky. I'm telling you that Buckley athleticism provides dangers because he also hits like an Ngannou, man. He has that death touch that we've seen happen. And for Bo Nickal that has all the hype, only 4 fights. He's already at a stage in his career where he never thought he'd be achieved. Mm-hmm. Almost that kind of imposter syndrome and mentality could be there, could be ruminating. Who knows? I've been talking about magic dust lining up all the way, since it is since it is Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. But this could be the one. I'm not saying it is. I think Bo Nickal gets it done also. And I'm actually going to go TKO. I do think he's going to want to show something here. I do think he's going to want to put on a performance. And just with the way Val Woodburn really starts swinging and ducking his head like a madman, I say Bo Nickal's going to cut a corner and put one to him.
I mean, that's a fair prediction right there, man. When you're talking about the magic dust aligning in Las Vegas, that might not be the kind of dust that, you want to be in taking, brother, if you know what I'm saying. But listen, man, Bo Nickal, bro, give me a submission right here. I'm going submission happy this card. I just think that when you're fighting these bigger guys like that, the big motions, it works in their favor if they land. But if they don't, easy takedown, circle to the back, choke them to sleep. Choking somebody and cranking their face and trying to break their jaw, I think is arguably a little easier than just trying to smash their Goliath heads in with punches. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, like, it's I'm going to mess up my hand and potentially get swept because I'm trying to drop big shots, or I'm just going to control them and I'm going to choke them. So give me the submission, Bo Nickal. I'm thinking rear naked choke. That sounds pretty juicy to me. Minus 2,800. I think the big lesson that we have here, folks, is that if you bet on this, you just shouldn't. Why would you bet on this? There's no value unless you're betting for Val Woodburn, and if so, just take the TKO. Just call it $25 plus $2,500. $5 nets you a ridiculous amount of money. I don't know how much, but with that being said, that is your card right there. AJ, any last words on this one?
Yeah, folks, $5 gets you some sort of math that's too much for me as well, but this one's still going to be fun to see Bo Nickal get down in the cage again.
That's right. All right. And now that we've gotten that out the way, it's time for the most coveted aspect of the program, where we talk about today's unknowns and tomorrow's stars. We're talking about the sleepers, baby.
Time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're going to sleep on me and I'm going to wake you up.
AJ, we got some really good fights here in terms of just the through and through card, right? You got a good sleeper. I have a sleeper that's much less of a sleeper. I kind of cheated this week, folks. So I'm sorry about that. But I wanted to bring you a good matchup. So AJ, because I cheated, I'll let you go first, brother. Talk to the people. This is the sleeper we got on deck. What should we know about, you're going to have to say the names on this one. Talk to the people, bro.
Cameron Simon versus Terrence Mitchell, brother. And I'm pretty sure that's how I say it. I was looking at the old fights and that's how they say it, but you never know if they're actually pronouncing it right. But what I like about this one, it's especially in Cameron Simon, this dude's an up-and-comer, man. And he has finishes. He has his ways to go. He's looking young, looking crispy, at an 8-0 record, and he has that draw of, he might be fighting the same card because of South America and Derick G. Plessis, but he's going up against an absolute hammer of a fighter, Terrence Mitchell. This one I like because it's a true sleeper fashion. Stars that are unknowns now, going to be killers in the future against, man. And don't look at look at the favorite that Derek's highlighting right now, but don't let that fool you. Don't let the hype behind Simon fool you. Terrence Mitchell is also very, very dangerous. This one's going to be fun. I'm actually looking for Simon to win this one, and I'm actually looking at TKO. Derek's the best at pointing it out when we show it, because a lot of people do believe the hype. but don't necessarily put all your eggs in one basket. Simon can get down, but so can Mitchell. This is going to be a very fun fight in the prelims. What do you think, Derek?
I think that this is definitely going to be a fun fight. I will say, put a little respect on my man from South Africa. Now, he ain't a South American right here, brother. That's a South African. Shout out. You feel me? But that's neither here nor there. This will be a fun matchup, man. People don't know about Terrence Mitchell. Terrence Mitchell is a fun fighter right there. He's old, about 10 years older, too. So, I mean, listen, Cameron Simon, you got your work cut out for you. Now, let me talk about my sleeper right here. Folks, if you've been following MMA recently at all, women's MMA at all, you know about Yasmin Jauregui. She came from Combate Global. Now she's fighting Denise Gomes. And the thing about Denise Gomes, man, is that, listen, bro, she might have a loss right here against Loma, but that win against Bruna Brasil, man, a win that was an underdog victory, a win where she just went relentless. I'm just meaner, badder, tougher, stronger than you. Let's see, can she do that to the more technical Yasmin Jauregui? Hey, listen, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm not going to get too hyped because, AJ, you know I have a propensity to do that. Oop, that's not me. There we go. I have a propensity to get a little too hyped on some of these sleepers. But what you should know, folks, Yasmin Jauregui is already labeled as one of these future champions, one of these real contenders who is going to be like making real steam in the future in her division. She's very technical. She can get into a war. She has good skills through and throughout, right? But AJ, this is where I have to bring you in for the sleeper. Does the more technical fighter always win against the fighter who says, oh, you thought I was going to throw the conventional shot here and then duck my head here because that's what I'm supposed to? No, I'm unorthodox. I throw whatever I want. I'll throw the kitchen sink at you with the big heavy wrench too. How often, brother, do those fighters get the one up on these technical skilled fighters?
I would genuinely say, Derek, a 6 out of 10, the technique wins. There's a reason it's the fundamentals, but in this kind of a game, it's nothing too drastic. It's still a very close fight. I actually like Denise Gomes in this one before the not brutality, but veracity in which she likes to fight.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. And if you look at the numbers right here, 92% for Jauregui, she's the clear favorite. It makes sense. But it doesn't always make sense when you see it and you're like, oh, the game plan isn't going according. So, folks, Yasmin Jauregui versus Denise Gomes. You need to watch this. I'm not going to sell you any further. This is Mexico versus Brazil. You know what time it is. But, AJ, I also just have to mention really quickly that, like, I really think that does play a big factor into this, man. You get lulled into brawls that you're not supposed to be brawling in. You get lulled into these types of fights that it's just not going according to the game plan, and I always got to give those guys a puncher's chance. You said 6 out of 10 for the technical guys. That means 4 out of those 10 times, the non-technique person, the Trevor Peaks who are throwing flying hammer fists, they're winning, bro. They're winning. So, listen, with that being said, folks, that is your sleeper segment. Now, AJ, we got a little bit of time. Yeah, we got a little bit of time. Let's talk about some prelims, baby. Let's talk about what we have here on this International Fight Week UFC 290 card. Now, let's talk about shout out to an OG. AJ, let's take a step back. Robbie Lawler, shout out to the ruthless one. Shout out to a legend. Shout out to one of the guys that got me into UFC, got me into MMA. He's been around as a staple, and he has announced that even though he was going to bow out gracefully, unannounced, he decided maybe the people would want to know this is going to be my last fight. Nico Price, man, he gets the hybrid in his retirement fight. This is not going to end well, will it?
Oh, well, Derek, I never count out the ruthless one. And I do have to say thank you to Robbie Lawler for letting us enjoy that as fans, because this dude has done a lot for the sport. I know my favorite moment. I was hoping you're going to bring up your favorite moment too, Derek, but how can you not love the stare down between him and oh man, I'm thinking the name now that we're thinking. I was
Rory
literally just watching the fight today. Rory McDonald. And then him, my favorite part about it, folks, not just the fight, not just the stare down. Robbie Lawler comes back, his coach asks him how he's feeling. I'm feeling fucking great. That's what I like. This dude is in it for the fight. And Nico Price as well, a guy who likes to bite down in his mouthpiece and willing to take an L, willing to go out on his shield. So this one, you said, will it end well? Will it end nice? I don't know, but this is going to end bloody, Derek, and that's what I like this fight for.
So, all love to Robbie Lawler. Like I said, man, and believe it or not, because the reason I didn't bring up what's your favorite moment, everyone's going to say the same thing. The stare with Rory McDonald. It was classic. That is literally like a top 5 moment in UFC history. However, we know that when you take emotion out of it and you draw into logic brain turns on, you realize that retirement fights for older MMA fighters 7 out of 10 times does not end well at all. And we hope that they just don't announce it because we don't want to be heartbroken again. But AJ, if I have to say what my favorite Robbie Lawler moment is, believe it or not, man, you remember when he fought Nick Diaz? Nick Diaz was talking crap to him, smacking him up, Stockton slap, rocked him with a good shot, and Robbie got rocked and then went into eternal rage mode and then just started throwing bricks at my man. That's my favorite Robbie Lawler moment. That's where I was like, bro, this dude is different. But that's neither here nor there, man. I do think Nico Price, this is going to be a bloody one if Robbie Lawler is willing to get it. And I will say, AJ, man, the last fight that I went to, this was actually the card that Robbie Lawler and Nick Diaz fought on, and Robbie Lawler avenged his loss to Nick Diaz, where Nick Diaz had to take a knee. So it's crazy how the world works. So shout out to you, Robbie Lawler, true legend of the game. AJ, someone got saved on this card from being the biggest favorite. Actually, not quite, but close. Jack Della Maddalena, man. We were hyped up because my man had a real scrap on deck for this fight. And now that we're talking about it, of course, that's going to be the moment that I forget who he was fighting. Sean Brady. Oh, goddamn, that was going to be such a good fight. We got robbed of that one. He gets instead Josiah Harrell. And AJ, I'm not going to lie to you, I have no idea who my man is, but I've heard nothing but good things. Word on Twitter, word on the streets is that this dude is going to prove some people that he is nothing to be played with and that Jack Della Maddalena is in for a tougher test. Given that he got saved by Bo Nickel as not being like the biggest favorite or whatnot, man, I mean, this is still a pressure spot for Maddalena, right?
Still a pressure spot. His opponent, Josiah Harrell, is a finisher, Derek. I was trying to get a little tape on him late. All I saw was his fight against Timmy Tyler. It was a knee injury, so there wasn't really much to go on. But this dude does bring the fight. He brings the pressure. Like I said, he's a finisher. A lot of rear naked chokes. Does have the power to get things done. But again, man, they're Jack Della Maddalena. There's levels to this game, so welcome to the UFC, Harrell. But I still think this is going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, and this is why I said where he was not quite the biggest favorite because he's minus 900 favorite, which is still ridiculous in an MMA fight. But let's talk about a guy who was supposed to fight a couple weeks ago, man. Tatsuro Taira, right? He opens up as a minus 1,000 favorite against Edgar Chairez. Probably butchered that name so horrendously. I'm sorry, bro. Sorry to La Raza that I could not get the name right. But the point is, man, this dude, Tatsuro, no joke, man. People really like this guy. And to open up again as this minus 1,000 favorite, bro, I mean, just what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Folks, there's a reason in the sleeper section that I brought up Tatsuro Taira. It must have been months ago, weeks ago, whatever it was. Check the tapes if you're a true fan. Tatsuro Taira is the real deal, man. 13-0 coming out of Japan against Chairez, bro. Derek, I think you said it right, bro. They just came out a little wonky. Yeah. But either way, man, Chairez is down to scrap. He's going to be bringing that Mexico Fury we love to see. Tatsuro Taira is a precise man, tactician of the game. So this is going to be a fun fight.
Yeah, definitely break out some jiu-jitsu in that one. And AJ, last one before we hop up out of here, man. This one has to end in a knockout. Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menefield, man. Somebody has to go to bed in this one, unfortunately. And the betting odds say that Crute actually has a little bit of an edge against Menefield. I don't know why, but Alonzo Menefield at plus 110 is screaming, throw money on me. It's screaming it. I love me some Jimmy Crute. This dude is nasty. He's such a deadly fighter. But Alonzo Menefield, I feel like, is that guy who gets counted out time and time and time again and just keeps knocking everybody out. What do you think?
I didn't look at the odds before you said that, Derek, so I was expecting Alonzo Menefield to have the edge in the knockout right there. So I think that's good money, Derek. I think that is a great thing, especially we talked about athleticism before in the Woodburn fight. But, man, you want to talk about athleticism from a big boy, Alonzo Menefield has, and so does Jimmy Crute. Take nothing away from Jimmy Crute. We saw the dog that he is. But this one, man, this is like a little cherry on the icing. This is crazy that this is second fight from the main event. We're going to see this in the prelims, folks. Tune in's ABC. This one's going to be a blast. Yeah,
man, and I think they give Crute the edge right there just because he's got the grappling advantage. But Alonzo Menefield, it's not an easy task to take that man down. I will just say that. All right, folks, with that being said, those are your prelims. UFC 290 International Fight Week, baby. This marks over the halfway point. We're in quarter 3 of the 2023 fiscal year, folks. We're getting it out here, baby. I mean, listen, time flies. AJ, where can the people find you on Twitch?
Twitch.tv/Santa Fe Bomber, folks. Go check me out. We're doing some fun stuff over there, whether it's art, breaking down fights, playing video games. Just because I have to be on this PC all the time does not mean we cannot interact. And that's my favorite part about it, man. Go jump in the community. Go hop in the chat. Let's have some banner back and forth. You're on there enough, man. I'll be bringing you up on here. And if you're on here, you know you're a fan or you know you're supporting. You got some love from me as well. So make sure you hit that follow button as well. I know Derick's very active on Twitter. As long as what's the new thing? Threads. If Threads doesn't catch on, or if it does catch on, he's gonna have to hop on that as well. Right there, go check us out on Twitter. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, folks. I said it in the intro. Don't let the first 5 minutes, fool you. Yeah, we're personable, we're doing all that, we're bringing the fun. But if we're winning you some money, make sure you're sharing with your friends. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. We can use the help. We're trying to hit that 1,000 by the end of the year. Derick said it. Q4 is right around the corner.
Listen, folks, there's nothing that I could say to one up any of that, so we're just going to get up out of here. That is it for us, folks, and until next time, peace out.